Peace, peace, family. We are now live. I know y'all excited. Y'all was waiting for this one. This is a live we certainly need in a time when distractions are at, an all-time high. Family, I went on my Instagram page and all I seen was Trump, 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 Trump. I said, oh shit. I said, what happened to the spiritual people? Where did my spiritual people go? They just disappeared, Aaron. I was like, they just left. I said, what happened? So this show is a reminder for the family about our purpose, our mission, our destiny, why we're here, the reason this whole and the Trump thing, that's part of the whole story, but it gets a little deeper than that. Let me get to a commercial real quick, y'all. Before I bring my guest on, get comfortable. Get to this quick commercial about gathering the masses. We'll be right back in 1 minute, family. Get comfortable and make sure you hit that like button. Be right back.
Yo. I fought plenty battles, caught many arrows, flossed plenty apparel, resembling the pharaohs, cemented in the gravel, extensive in my travels. Not to mention, ascension is my cattle. Cash cow, we milking it. Laugh now, we killing it. Last round, we still in it. Axe round, we healing shit. Hands down, we killing it. No pass down, it's silking this. Pack your bags, take this pilgrimage. Guarantee.
What's up, gang?
What's up? Go, you got it.
Oh, you okay? All right, go.
you need
Wow.
until you as a soul um have just expanded enough from that unique type of curriculum, that unique type of dynamic and energy.
Indeed. So, I mean, so if Earth is based on perception, Earth is, it's a subjective realm. Heaven and hell is in your mind, depending on your state of mind and your awareness. Some people would say, oh, this is a prison planet. Some people would say, oh, we came here to experience heaven on earth, depending on how like I said, your perception. Why do you think the ancients that we admire so much, who built all these magnificent statues that can't be emulated right now with our technology, it seems like they just wanted to get the hell up out of here? They was like, no reincarnation. I want to go back to this realm. We do not want to reincarnate at no cost. Why do these people who are so sophisticated spiritually, it seemed like they despise reincarnation so much? Why is that? Because it's just based on perception. So they could have experienced heaven or hell while they were down here.
Well, a lot of the advanced beings who came here at different eras and periods to give information are here reincarnated. A lot of the folks here are those same souls. I know I'm one of those same souls. I can see that you're one of those same souls. So the thing is, a lot of these beings left, and I'm getting the two examples of Anunnakis and Atlanteans left because humans were not in the consciousness to understand that they were not gods and that they were not above them, that they were actually equal. And so when you're in a more advanced consciousness and you're coming to a planet where the frequency isn't where it needs to be, and you're trying to assist, but beings are resistant. They're doing things like sacrifices. Like that's why the Mayans are not around anymore, because they were doing sacrifices and things like that to the Anunnakis, who they saw as gods. So the Anunnakis went, we're leaving this. You guys don't get it yet. And some of us are back. That's what I'll say about that.
Very, very, very interesting. Another question about, because this concept of abundance is one in which caused a lot of confusion to people down here in this realm, whether it be guilt or programming or whatever. In terms of abundance and wealth, Aaron, let's say we have abundance and wealth right here, and we have companionship right here. Now, the people who have abundance and wealth, Aaron, they say it's lonely at the top. And I'm not talking about 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of people say it's lonely at the top. So do you think, just personally from your experience and you climbing up the ladder of success and everything, do you see more abundance from where you came and your limited experience versus where you're going now and your spirit expanding and learning everything that you have learned?
Okay, so are you asking me, because I heard two questions. One, is it truly lonely at the top? And second question, have I experienced more abundance as I've continued to expand?
Well, as you have continued to expand, has your perception of abundance changed, in which you realize you probably might have been more abundant, maybe having less money, let's say it like that, or just being around people, that was the ultimate wealth?
For me personally, I can't say that experiencing more financial abundance has made me miss times when I was not financially abundant. But I understand that for some people, it may help them recognize that the things that they idolized and put on a pedestal, it wasn't the real wealth. So I absolutely have had experiences where I could recognize that the quality of certain relationships or family or health, these different types of things are equivalent to what we want to call wealth or abundance. Whereas when I was younger and you're just like, I just want to get out of these circumstances, I'm just, I'm tired of black and all of this stuff, you only think in terms of money. So that's
Indeed. Times, and I asked this question, I did it, and I love asking all my guests this question. I just recently asked Rod Hayes this question. How many times have you been to this realm, Aaron?
Source is just giving me many times in
Just
many,
many times. So
in many forms, even in okay, Source is showing me like helping to form the earth itself,
wow.
helping to form this solar system itself, like from a high oversoul level, being that involved in the experience here. So it's beyond what we would call a linear number.
Was Earth one of the first planets formed in the solar system? Is Earth is it extremely important in the grand scheme of things? Like, how important is Earth in the grand scheme of things compared to Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn and Mars and all the other planets?
In the eyes of Source, all equally important, but what Source is talking about right now is it always starts with a sun,
Yeah.
and then planets project out from suns, and then they sort of they cool down and then become a planet, and then become inhabitable just based on its evolutionary track. But there's no hierarchy for Source, so it's not like, well, this planet is more important. Now, what we will say is for this particular moment in time, with the genetic library of Earth and all of the intergalactic DNA that is embedded within the human genetic pool, that is what makes Earth very interesting. That doesn't exist elsewhere in this solar system in terms of genetic diversity. So many of you have probably heard this, that so many beings just in this universe are highly interested in what happens here, and Earth is very, very safeguarded, very safeguarded. So for the folks who are like, this is a prison planet and this and that, it's not happening. It's extremely safeguarded. It's like an all hands on deck sort of mission happening here.
So you do a lot of channeling, Erin. Do you think that some of these entities, like you just said, you know, these entities are very interested about what's going on this planet? Do you think that some of these entities that you have become familiar with in all these years of channeling, do you think it's possible that they are now reincarnating through you as your child to have a more personal experience with you? You laughing? Like I said, do you think that's a possibility?
I mean, everything is possible. Okay, so what I'll say is my son that I'm carrying right now has been my spirit guide this entire lifetime. Okay.
What? I'm sorry to cut you off. Was he like your childhood invisible friend or something like that?
No, I wasn't always aware of the spirit. But over most recent years, I began having more conversation, understanding that the time was coming for me to carry a child and all of that, just contractually of what he's here to bring in. But he had always been a spirit guide, even when I didn't know it.
Right. Indeed. Wow. Amazing. So do you think is Earth, out of all I heard you refer to Earth before as Earth School, is this like the most difficult school in the cosmos? Is this like the last level of the video game? I remember when I was young, there was Mike Tyson Punch Out, and you had to beat Mike Tyson to beat the game. If you master the Earth game, is that like you the master of the cosmos?
Yo, what up,
You don't
DJ?
have to,
What up,
you know,
DJ?
anywhere you go, you running shit because you done mastered Earth. Is that how this works?
Earth is definitely one of those places. However, there are other places that carry a similar vibration. That's how we'll explain it. Carry a similar vibration and opportunity set for a soul to experience a diverse range of duality. But other beings really do respect you when you have experiences here on Earth because of the I'm hearing this as the degree of amnesia, the degree of forgetting who you are, and literally being so knee deep in distortion, in illusion, in control. It's really hard to awaken while you are on Earth, but there are many other planets that hold a similar frequency. Actually, there are some that are worse than Earth at this point.
Would you name one, or is that like?
I'm not getting a particular name. It's just more of like a vibration I'm feeling. Like I'm seeing like a very dystopic. Okay, think about Hunger Games is what I'm hearing.
Oh, right. Wow. So did you ever, now this, I'm curious about this. Once again, you do a lot of channeling, and there's a lot of arguing on the internet about whether the earth is round or flat. Have you ever asked source or entities about whether the earth was round or flat, since that's such a big debate on the internet?
It depends on the dimension from which you are perceiving.
Hmm.
But for today, this is
Right.
literally what source is giving me. For today, the
Mm.
earth is round. And you
Ooh,
all need to, the earth is round.
ooh. Indeed, indeed. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions about, they call this realm, when we incarnate down here or in the dream realm, they say we come down here and our soul is dreaming. But while we're down here, when we go to sleep at night, we also dream. So it's like a dream within a dream. There's a concept in Egypt called they say when you leave this realm, there's the scales of my yacht where they weigh your they weigh your heart against a feather to see how heavy your heart is. If this realm is an illusion in a dream, and when you dream it's a dream, I'm wondering, all of it is an illusion. So do you get judged by your dreams in your dream and this dream, or is it, you get what I'm saying? Like, say you dream at night. Like, let me give an example. Erin dreams at night. Erin is a magnificent soul while she's awake. But when she dreamed tonight, she dreamed like she did something bad to somebody. If you leave this realm, is that also judged against you? Because that was in your mind somewhere for you to have even dreamt that. So are you judged by your dreams that you have at night, just like you are during your normal waking hours?
The only essence that can truly judge you is yourself, because all is self.
Okay.
If in your highest state of consciousness, you are source. So there's nothing outside of source that can judge source and say that was good, that was bad, that was negative, like in terms of how humans think.
Right.
It's only experience. It's all just experience. When you accept that within the game of existence and experience, there's just a range of things that can occur and happen, and you are not in you don't operate in self-judgment, that's when you enter the realm of being unconditional, which is where source resides. Your highest ultimate self is only ever in pure unconditional acceptance of any and everything that arises within the game or within the dream. Because if it's just a dream, right, and I know it's just a dream, then why would I judge it?
Indeed, indeed. But do you think that may cause certain people to do bad acts, what we call bad acts, because they say, hey, it's just a dream. I'm gonna, do this to my wife, or I'm gonna do this to my husband, or I'm gonna do this to my child. It's just a dream anyway. So do you think that's a dangerous concept to teach the masses, that this is just a dream, this is just an illusion, because they could easily take advantage of that?
That is the Luciferian way of thinking.
Ooh.
So there are beings in the universe who think that way, and we
Yeah.
call them service to self beings, meaning they have distorted the original law of one, which is that everything is me and I am everything. So what I do to myself, I do to another. But I'm seeing this as like there can be certain dysfunctions that arise in an evolutionary path for a certain species or collective or group that would bring them into that Luciferic thought. Okay, and it's also influenced by the lower angelic, the fallen angels would be the ones who are implanting ideas like that and creating confusion. Because when you're operating in source consciousness, love is the feeling that permeates your being. So you wouldn't even think I'm going to do something horrible just because I can, because you would understand via the law of one, what I do to another, I do to myself.
Indeed. Yeah, no, definitely. Even the law of one, it's like, I wondered this before, Erin, with the law of one and the golden rule, treat others as you treat yourself. And I wonder about these laws and putting them in proper context to our society now. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't like themselves. So when they think about that law of one, they're like, they don't like themselves. So
Yeah.
how can they like somebody else? You know what I'm saying? How would you describe and try to teach that the law of one to somebody who does not like themselves and it'll tell you out to your face, I don't like myself? How would you explain that law to that person?
You know, when it comes to cultivating an unconditional relationship with yourself, on a very grounded level, what I always tell people is you have to start liking yourself.
Mm,
That person who's like, I don't even like myself or I don't love myself, um, it's only because they're operating in an illusion of things that they've been programmed to believe about themselves. When that illusion is cleared and you see yourself as infinite intelligence and you see yourself as infinite beauty and abundance and all of these miraculous things about the multiverse, it will be impossible to not like yourself and thus
yeah.
impossible to not love yourself. So start with the basics. Some people here and now don't like themselves because maybe you perceive yourself to be a failure or whatever the case may be. I would encourage you to day by day identify small things that you can start appreciating about yourself. Even if it's, I bake the best cookies in the world. I promise you, if you identify that, you notice that, you acknowledge that, and you keep building on top of the things that you like about yourself, it will develop into self-love. And then what happens is you start seeing yourself in the way that source has always saw you.
Mm, mm.
But
Very interesting.
it takes practice.
Right, right. Another question about the whole concept of dreams in this world in the earth realm. um when we've probably had thousands of dreams. People dream probably 5 dreams a night. Sometime they live to be 50, 60. They don't have thousands of dreams and we don't remember any of them. Do you think our soul will forget our lifetime because it is a dream, just like we forget our dreams at night? Because I'm telling you, Evan, sometimes I love my son so much. I be like, oh my God, I don't ever want to forget him. If it's a billion years from now, I do not want to forget this experience with my son Sirius. So I'm just wondering, like, the way we forget our dreams, are we going to forget these lifetimes?
Okay. It's not a forgetting in the way that humans forget. It's more so because the soul is so infinite and so present, it will tap into that memory when necessary. So the example that I'm getting is it's like when you're cramming to study for an exam and you're like, I need to remember everything. I need to remember everything. The soul doesn't operate that way. The soul can tap into a memory, even relive an experience. If that desire arises, it can do that. So it doesn't have to be attached to, I need to hang on to this memory and this experience forever. Because in the moment that it becomes a desire and it's available as a soul, you can just relive that moment. You can just access that memory. You can just tap into the recorded experience of what played itself out.
Indeed. All right, so I'm glad we're covering different areas like abundance in this realm, the concept of abundance, and the whole dream idea, the dream realm in this earth realm, because these are important concepts and topics that confuse a lot of people. Now, the question I have for you, Aaron, and I love asking these questions because you do a lot of challenge, so I love the answers that I get. I feel like they're more heartfelt than versus somebody that's reading it straight out of a book. Now, a lot of the quantum physicists talk about the brainwave state, alpha, beta. It's alpha, beta. What's the other one? Alpha, beta, theta, and theta. So they say right before you go to sleep, Aaron, you should say positive affirmations to yourself because it will go straight to your subconscious realm, and your subconscious will work on whatever you want to manifest while you're asleep because you said it right before your avatar went to sleep. What I want to ask you about is right before your avatar permanently goes to sleep and you do what we call die. What if you know you're dying and you say affirmations then? How beneficial is that to your soul, your spirit, and your avatar if you're saying these affirmations before you permanently go to sleep? Will it take you to the realm that you're saying the affirmations to?
In the event that this were to happen, like someone's doing their positive affirmations and they're gonna die tonight,
Right.
the benefit would actually be that they would perhaps limit the possibility of them experiencing something negative when they're sort of in that astral space. So what we're talking about here is when people die, they can create the experience that they believe first before going through what Source calls the tunnel of lives, which everybody goes through the tunnel of lives, and then they arrive at their book of souls before they decide where they want to go next, right? However, let's say you believe that you are a horrible person and you did bad things and you don't deserve to go to heaven, or all, this type of thought. You will manifest the experience of that hellscape. You will manifest the experience of whatever was deeply embedded in your psyche before you eventually go through the tunnel of lives. So if you're doing positive affirmations on the night of your death, I would venture to say that you would have a more positive experience. But then again, it just depends on the belief, because affirmations, when you're practicing affirmations, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily encoded as a belief, right? You could be doing these affirmations, but really be believing that you're a bad person. And if it hasn't fully solidified into your identity, you might create that experience for yourself. Like,
one of the things they say, Aaron, and one of the main things that people look to be in this realm is successful. And they say one of the traits of successful people, I don't know how true this is, but they say is that they are delusional. They say some of them, a lot of them are psychopaths, because they're able to just completely, tune out of reality and focus on something. Now, analyzing Donald Trump, well, let's say a lot of us think he's a horrible guy. When I look at Donald Trump, sometimes I say, Trump is so crazy, I think he believe all this shit. Like when he talked about alternative fact, like I really think Trump believes some of the shit he say. Like he's able to collapse waves in a way that I haven't seen a lot of people collapse waves in a quantum field. I think he believes some of this shit. So if Trump believes he's as amazing as he say he is, when he leaves this realm, does he go to one of the higher realms because his belief system really believed he was an amazing individual? You know what I'm saying? So does he go with, like, you might see him and you be like, how the hell did Trump get here? And Trump be like, Aaron, I believe the same thing you believe, Aaron, that's why I'm here. And you're like, damn, that's how this thing works.
So this is me being, by the way, completely neutral politically.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to say is there are certain beings on this planet who understand universal laws via various secret societies that they've been groomed inside of, certain networks of people. And when you look at Trump, you have to ask yourself, how is this person still standing? Okay, there's a reason why. So this radical belief that you're talking about, that people look at as being crazy or insane, or all of his rhetoric and all of his philosophy and how he shows up, it's all intentional. I want you to understand, it's all intentional to create a certain energy. This is a being that understands manifestation, that understands how to create a timeline shift. So it doesn't matter if you think Trump is great or not, or if you agree with him or not, or if you believe he works for the light or the dark or whatever. It doesn't matter. You need to understand when you're dealing with people who understand energy, and because they understand energy, they affect change in the matrix. And that is what he is a master at doing.
Indeed. No, definitely. Indeed. Let's talk about the ego for a second, Aaron. I've heard a lot of spiritual teachers say, and giving advice, they say where you get the most resistance is where your soul purpose lies. So and that's the reason why you're getting, it's like a navigation tool to recognize exactly what you're supposed to do in life. Is where you're getting a lot of resistance from.
Sure.
My question to you would be, when it comes to the ego, like let's say I wanted to be a basketball player and I kept getting resistance and becoming a basketball player from my ego, something would happen, all types of stuff come up. I want to ask, and this happens a lot, what's the ego's beef with your sole purpose? Like the ego seemed like it got something really against your soul, your destiny. Like, does it have like a personal vendetta against what your personal your destiny is?
Well, it's sort of the duality that you need for this experience. Like, if everything just happened easily or unfolded without struggle, without contrast, without conflict, it would actually defeat the purpose of being here. So in that way, the ego is your worst enemy and your best friend built into one. The goal
Ooh, I
is
like how you
that
said that. Wow.
when you integrate them, and you experience total shadow, because it's your own shadow, total shadow integration, you can get your ego on board with anything that you want. You can even work around the resistance of your ego. An example I want to use of this is, let's say somebody believes, I have to work really hard before I receive a certain amount of money. That's their ego believing in limitation or a particular prerequisite. But you, as the observer in the observer seat, if you just accept this is where my ego is, and you work around that and you go, okay, I'm gonna do this and this, and then that will help me believe that I'll manifest this. If you consciously do that, that's you learning how to work around your ego, learning how to accept where your ego is, slowly develop it, slowly rehabilitate it without being totally consumed by it. The issue with the ego is that people think that they are the ego.
Okay.
So they
Okay.
don't experience, so like for myself, for an example, I experience Aaron as the personality and Aaron as source simultaneously.
Okay.
And in doing so, I can go back and forth between the two at will. That means my ego can never truly create suffering for me, because
Gotcha.
the moment the attachment arises, I go, you know what? I don't want to be Aaron anymore. I'm going to go back to being source.
Ooh. She good, y'all. She good, y'all, ain't she? She good at this. do you think, would you say the louder your ego, the brighter your light? Like, does the ego get louder the more light you shine upon this world? And somebody who has a small, tiny ego that doesn't talk that much is because they don't have enough light or enough chi, that the ego doesn't even care that much to try to affect what it's doing?
No. The louder the ego means the greater the attachment or attachment. What I mean by this is, when you're really attached to something, and we've all experienced this, where we wanted something so bad that to the point that we felt like without this thing we would be nothing, or life would be miserable, or for whatever reason you're placing such a strong attachment. Because you have this strong attachment, your ego is just going to get louder and louder and louder and confirm and validate to you that you do in fact need this thing. The opposite happens when you detach. When you detach from things and you go, and this is really like a fifth dimensional way of living, where you say maybe, but maybe not. Everybody can tune into that right now. Something that you want. If you start telling yourself maybe, but maybe not, recognize how quiet your ego gets. Because it doesn't have anything to it doesn't have anything to attach itself to make you feel validated. You just let it go. You said, I'm complete with or without it. So the ego is going to get really quiet.
Interesting. So one of the, you've heard of Saint Germain before, right?
Yeah.
So one of the affirmations that I see constantly, I got some of his books, the I Am Discourses. And one of the affirmations that is said repeatedly in the book is, I am perfection. Now, and I'm sure our higher self is perfection, but what I want to ask you, Aaron, a lot of people may have problems saying that affirmation because they like, how the hell am I perfect in this realm? I've had this happen to me, that happened to me, that happened to me, that happened, this happened. I didn't get this, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
What does perfection look like in a realm like Earth where there's a time delay? So somebody could say, oh, even though this happened, I'm still perfection. What would you describe perfection like in a realm that has time in it?
Okay, perfection is not the condition of a particular thing that your
Mhm.
ego wants to believe validates you, makes you lovable, makes you abundant, etc.
Right.
Perfection is the acceptance of whatever arises on the path.
Ooh. Ooh, that's a good one.
That's the difference. Because whatever arises on the path is your soul's curriculum. It is showing up and it's about how you choose to relate to it. So, this is why two people can experience the same thing
Right.
and get a different outcome or triumph through that experience differently. If I say this is less than perfect, then I create separation within my own being, and then I will generate from my consciousness, I will manifest the experience of an outcome that feels less than perfect. If I say, okay, this is not ideally the condition that I would prefer to experience, but I accept it as being a perfect part of my journey, it will turn into perfection.
Mm. Like that, like that. You know what? That reminds me of something that I've learned to incorporate in my life. So I realized that sometimes things that happen to me, you know how I'm mad when it's happening, but 5 years later I laugh at it. I'm like, oh man, that shit, it was all part of the journey. So if something was to happen tomorrow, I want to adapt the personality of my future self instead of my present self looking at it like something is. I want to be the future self and be like, this shit is just part of the movie. You know what I'm saying? So I
Exactly.
learned to do that just to kind of change my perception about, like you said, when things arise. Because when things arise, depending on how you view them, depends on how bad or not you will experience it. So I'm glad you said that.
And that's detachment. That
Yeah,
means when this is happening in the moment, you're deciding to expand into a broader view and just accept this is temporary, but I know at some point in the future this will be irrelevant.
yeah, yeah,
It's the
yeah.
art of detachment.
Yeah. It's like if you get a flat tire while you're driving on the highway and you just decide to start laughing and you pull over and start watching a movie on your
Yeah.
phone versus if you just go crazy and you're crying and you're screaming and you're frantic and panicking. It's both of them are the same, but depending on how you reacted to it will change your future, I guess. It's a magnificent way to live.
Really quickly, I want to share a technique that I learned that has saved my life basically. Like probably 10 years ago I learned this.
Yeah.
When things go wrong, if you look at it as a gateway or an avenue into new possibility, um, you will shift timelines and experience a different outcome of that thing going wrong. So let's use the example you talked about with like if you get a flat tire, right? If
Mhm.
I get a flat tire, and this is literally what I would do today in my life. If I got a flat tire, I'd be like, this hasn't something like this haven't happened in a while.